Hello, class, and welcome to the third and final topic for this week, for week 12. This is the topic that deals with the negotiating book, and I have some new information I'm going to add to that, add to the discussion that the author has included in chapter 6. But first, I'd like to, say again, I hope that given this very difficult time in the country and in the world, that you and your families are healthy and well and will continue to stay healthy and well. And I encourage you to call me or send an email or a text if you have questions regarding maybe information you need about this class or from the university. I might be able to, or I will be able to refer you to some sources within the university that may be able to provide you some assistance. I might not know right off the bat who that would be, but I can find out. I know I have enough contacts in the university that I can find out what the right office or the right person that might answer your question or your call if you have some information that you need. But anyway, along with the welcome, since every week you see me down here in the corner of your slide presentation, I'm looking at I'm looking at your pictures. So the class roster pictures, and just thought I'd say hi to you individually, make it feel a little bit more like a regular, like a regular class, like I'm in front of the class, and you're sitting in your seats, and we're all in there talking about selling and negotiating. So I want to say hi to Alexis, and say hi to Ricardo, and to Cameron, and Alina, and to Hannah, and also hi to Jonathan, and hi to Porter, and also to Gabriel. So there you are. Here I am right here, and there you are. The 8 of you in our virtual class. In this topic 3, I'm going to talk about again a few things that are highlights that are in chapter 6. I think most of you now are probably ahead of me in this. You might be reading. I think you've done summaries of chapter 6 already, maybe even chapter 7. But anyway, I want to make sure that I touch on some of the significant points in all the chapters. Mostly the ones that deal mostly with selling. Some of the material in the text deals more would require a legal background, and that's not necessarily part of the sales proposition of the selling activity. So those are the ones that I pick out, those things that are useful from a mediation standpoint or a negotiation standpoint, and that often come up in the day-to-day work of people in marketing and selling. We're also going to talk about, just make a brief comment about the need for trust between the agent and the client. There's another discussion I'll touch on a little bit, is called the tangibles and intangibles in negotiations. Those aren't directly discussed in your text, so I thought I'd go ahead and mention those. And then final topic to round out topic 3 for this week is called increasing your leverage in negotiating. So anyway, let's get started with that. You've probably heard someone say, if you need a job to be done, or if you need a job to be done right, you'd better do it yourself. The problem is, doing every task yourself will prevent you from doing what you do best. It'll keep you from expanding the scope of the business. If you're running your own business, it will take away from, if you're a salesperson, which is the job that we talk mostly about in this course, it'll keep you from doing what salespeople are supposed to do. The main thing, going through those steps of the selling process, understanding customers' needs, trying to fill customers' needs, trying to make good presentations, trying to meet objectives, those kinds of things. In your job, and particularly, I like to think of it in terms of maybe think of you in your own business, and think of maybe, I know some of you are interested in becoming entrepreneurs and running your own businesses. You have to figure out what you do best and you may do a lot of things best. And you've had a lot of courses in your business major so far in your career at ASU. You've had courses in accounting. You've had courses in marketing. You're having courses in sales right now. The point is that when you start a business, you'll start it based on some strength that you have. Be very careful that you play to your strengths and don't have your energies drained off by if you start doing your own accounting work, you start doing your own mailing your own packages. If you take on every particular task, and I'm thinking about after the business is up and running. Early on, you might have to do a lot of these things yourself, but as you get going, don't try to get rid of that idea that if you need a job to be done, you better do it yourself. If your business is successful and you want to grow the business and it's going to continue to be successful, you'll have to bring other people on board. They will be your agents. Those are the people you're going to trust to get things done. If you don't, you may end up as in this case the one-man band entertainer here. We can kind of have some fun with this picture and say maybe this is a guy that wanted to start a band, but he wasn't able to talk people into. He didn't want to delegate other instruments. Maybe he thought he was the best player of all those instruments, so he didn't want to delegate to anybody else. And so that is the one-man band idea. Is one-person band is often used as a metaphor for people who try to do everything in their own business. So I found that picture online. I thought that was a good way to start this discussion. There's also I found another picture of I call it the one-person band, or the salesperson or the entrepreneur. And in this case, we see somebody it looks like a cell phone in one hand. Well, they actually have four hands, don't they? They have maybe an iPad in another hand, a cup of coffee in the other hand, and some documents, accounting forms or accounting papers or statements in the other hand. So there is a person in the business that is not delegating, and that's what we're talking about today, that importance of delegating. And you know that from your course in management about the importance of delegation. And when we delegate to people, we are very much in a sense making them our agents. So I'm getting ready to go to the next slide here. And so, deciding whether to use an agent or whether to carry out a task. And in this case, this is limited to the negotiation issues that come up in a business. But it can be certainly easily extended to include any other job for which we make somebody the agent. So deciding whether to use an agent for negotiations, and by the way, anyone permitted to make decisions on our behalf is an agent. So you're running your own business, you have a number of employees, you delegate to them, you in a sense have made those people your agents. You've given them permission to develop advertising messages. You've given them permission to negotiate things, maybe the purchase of inventory, maybe to negotiate with a company that's going to provide repair the air conditioner for the business. You're going to delegate to that person the power or the responsibility to hire other employees. So that's what agency is all about, and inherent in that is the process of negotiation. So what we're saying here, you can negotiate, but you don't want to do that because you have other things to do in your business. You'll do some of the negotiation, but you'll want to delegate some to an agent, i.e. other employees who you trust and you're paying and you're developing, and hopefully will help you grow the business. Number two, does the agent have experience with the issues that will arise in your negotiation? A great point. You can talk about things like think about negotiations of and from even if the only experience you have about the legal profession is from TV ads, is watch the TV ads, and you'll see that there'll be people who are who represent and are and advertise the fact that they deal with in injury law or in criminal law or in some kinds of business cases or in class action suits against companies that have allegedly have sold products that have injured people and caused problems with the environment, let's say. So finding the right agent, just because a person is your employee doesn't necessarily mean that they are a qualified agent. And so do they have experience with the issues that will arise? And as we know from those TV ads, that attorneys who oftentimes serve as negotiators, they tend to be specialists. It's a little bit rare in this day and age to find attorneys, either their TV ads or their billboards down on the freeway, and there are a lot of them, from the Broadway curve over through over to the airport area. There are several billboards there from various downtown Phoenix lawyers indicating what their legal specialty is. I guess that just happens to be the place where billboards are allowed in the city, and so they do. There's quite a bit of advertising down there, I think. They specialize, and that's what you would want to do in your case. Make sure the agent that is dealing with your issue, it seems to make sense. It seems like common sense, but we live in a world of specialization, and it has to do with negotiation as well. Another area of expertise where you find specialists in negotiation would be in real estate matters. Would be another one. The third one is, does the negotiation involve a technical matter that requires special assistance? Sometimes you may have had a problem in your company, for example, with an equipment failure. You do an online business. The company that installed all your online equipment, your servers, your routers, may have been, you think, negligent. You'll need to find a negotiator, a person who can handle that matter on your behalf, has a technical background. Kind of using the attorney example again here, it would be some attorneys that have engineering degrees, for example. So that would be, and there are many people like that. There are, in negotiation for patents or gaining permission to use trademarks from a company. Oftentimes it takes very specialized trademark and patent attorneys to handle those things. And then the final point there is what is your relationship with the other side? So, for example, you're negotiating. You need some negotiation to take place for let's say it has to do with the product that you're selling. That is, how well do you know the people on the other side? How well do you know the customers? It may be that somebody on your staff may know somebody in the other company very well. So that would be the case of maybe bringing in a person as your agent to be at your side, to work with the other side to help move the negotiations along. A key point that's brought out in Chapter 6 is making sure that and asking the question, does the agent have authority to act on behalf of the principal? And then also, as pointed out in your book, it says you ask the principal that question, not the agent. So make sure the principal says that if you're working with an agent, make sure you have discussed with the principal the fact that agent does have the power, let's say, the authority to act on behalf of the principal. You're buying from another company, and you're talking to an agent of that company, a sales rep, and you get into some discussions about that maybe depart a little bit from the normal the price that has been discussed, or maybe something there that's going to require some negotiation. It might be delivery, it might have to do with the price, it might have to do with altering the product, it might have to do with what you're able to return if something doesn't work. It may have something to do with how much time do I have to return this defective product if it turns out to be a defective product. So making sure that the person you're talking to does have authority and is acting on authority. There's a discussion I'd like to add then to Chapter 6, and I call it agents' roles and responsibilities. And what I'm talking about there is that it's summarized in those 4 points that everybody needs negotiation agents. Okay, so maybe, virtually everybody. And almost everyone is a negotiation agent at some time or other in their life. You are a negotiation agent if you have been sent by your company to go purchase a product, to go make some kind of arrangement, to go discuss some kind of a contract. So understanding agents' roles and responsibilities is something it's a good set of skills to have. It's good information to really be on top of, because in your life and in your business career, and I'm just assuming you're all going to have business careers because you're all business majors. I mean, some of your careers may be in the nonprofit sector, they may be in schools, but nevertheless, there are in schools and nonprofit sectors, and as well as in the profit sector, there are business-like transactions. All those things that I mentioned have to operate as businesses. They collect money from people, they provide services, and if they're not profit-making businesses, let's just say they are supposed to operate as a business. So everybody needs negotiation agents, or virtually everybody does. They need somebody who acts on their behalf. So again, that an agent is anyone who has permission to make decisions on your behalf. In a corporate setting, let's say you have now started your company and you've grown it to a fairly good size. You have your company's lawyers are agents. They're standing in for you to sign contracts, to understand contracts. The people who negotiate prices for office supplies, the personnel people, the people in the HR department who hire, they're your agents. If you run a retail store or any kind of a marketing business, you authorize salespeople and clerks to give customer discounts, or on a product to give a discount if it's damaged in some slight way and the customer is willing to buy it. You could have given authority to a clerk or retail salesperson to reduce the price a little bit. So that would be that's a negotiation strategy that you've discounted. That discount that you've given to people. But it goes on and on. In a business, the security guard who checks people at the door, the property manager who goes out and negotiates a new location for your expanded business. You have a business in Tempe and you want to open another business in North Phoenix, another location, and you'll authorize somebody to act in your behalf and to make those statements. It would be one that I think is kind of interesting, because it runs into this area of technical knowledge, and sometimes businesses need something done. The management of the business needs some technical stuff done that's way beyond what they understand. And what my example here is that the system analyst who customizes software for your company to use company-wide, when they're writing code, when they're putting together the pieces of this system for your company-wide software program, you can imagine, and with whatever background you've had in computers, if you've had a lot or even if you've had a little, there are decision points there about which way how do we code this, how do we say, how do we put in when things are due dates, and if somebody's doesn't pay their bill by the due date, how do we handle that? Now I realize that a lot of these decisions would have to be discussed with management, if you want to call them top management. But on the other hand, there's enough of these little incidental things that certainly will add up to be something big. There are enough smaller decisions that are made that the only way we can do it is to tell the IT people, go ahead and do do it your best. Then explain it to us, and we'll take it from there. So that's I think just a good introduction to the fact that agents are and the understanding agency roles and responsibilities is sometimes bigger than we think. In a business, it's part of everyday life. It's also part of, and think about this, that when we're talking about an agent, and you are, let's say now, instead of having your own business, let's say you are a department manager in a very large business, and there are other departments that are headed by department managers. You might think of the situation where you send one of your employees to one of the other departments. So an employee is going to one of the employees in your department is going to another department, acting on your behalf to do something, to arrange something. You're in the marketing department, let's say, and you're going to you're sending one of your employees to negotiate with the shipping department on developing a different kind of shipping cart for some of the new products that you're selling, that you're marketing. So sometimes the role of an agent in negotiation is outside the company, as we've talked about it mostly. We're negotiating with somebody outside a company, somebody in another company who we want to sell products to, or we want to buy stuff from. But don't forget the fact that we also negotiate within our company. We negotiate for a little bit more. We're in the marketing department, so we negotiate for a little bit more budget so that we can increase our spending on advertising. So sometimes we need to think about, there's external negotiation and there's also internal negotiation. There are some, number two, there are some agent responsibilities are informal. These are just, you can think about these, that when a colleague, one of your coworkers tries to arrange something for you, in a sense, maybe a meeting with one of their friends who might be a customer for your product. So sometimes those are, friends do favors for friends, and that would be a kind of an informal kind of, but we would call that an agent responsibility, because we're giving somebody the authority to set up a meeting for us with someone else. If you want to take a personal example, things happen within families. Kids often have a sibling intervene with their parents on their behalf. You think of this if you grew up in a family and you have, brothers and sisters. You know that sometimes you have given one of your siblings the authority to represent you with your parents. That's probably not the best example I could give, but it is an informal example. And it does mean that whenever we're negotiating, it does mean that we're asking somebody to do something on our behalf, i.e., that's what an agent is. Sometimes a legal obligation may be involved, step 3, and it might be that when legal things are involved, the negotiating agents are probably governed by laws or contracts or at least expectations of society. People we are delegating authority to manage our personal assets. Stockbrokers and investment counselors and financial advisors are people in this category. We talked a little bit about them last week, and when we did talk about the principal-agent relationship, and we talked about the idea of a fiduciary and the what I would call a tremendous responsibility when you are a fiduciary, that you are responsible for watching over the safety of money that somebody has entrusted to you to help them to invest on their behalf. And people are when we call a person a fiduciary, they are legally obligated to act on our best interests, not on their interests. They are there to do what's in our best interest. That often comes up in the discussion of financial advisors, because the financial advisor may be more interested in selling us some security, a stock or a bond or some other kind of a security or some kind of a account that is in their best interest, because they might make a commission on it. But if it's not in our best interest, they have a legal obligation to do what serves us the best. The fourth point there is, whenever agents are involved, it's a multi-party negotiation process. And I think what I mentioned there, and what I had in mind when I put that on the list, is that it's we're negotiating with an agent, and they are negotiating on our behalf. So we're negotiating with them to do what is in our best interest. And I say negotiation in the sense is that they may say, well, okay, so if I'm going to do that, you would need to pay me this much money. So you might have to negotiate to get the right salary to hire the agent that you need to negotiate on your behalf. So to get a negotiator, you'll have to, what I'm saying is, you might have to negotiate with people to be your negotiator. And it might be that you have a little bit of give and take with them. Very well could be in terms of how much you pay them. So I say it's a multi-party negotiation, because if we look at that agent, the multi-party is this: that agent we've hired has negotiated with us for the job and the pay that goes along with it. And then when they carry out their duties, they're going to be negotiating on our behalf with another party. So that's kind of what step 4 is all about. The issue of trust is critical here. Trust between principal and agent. If you don't, if it's not there, without trust, effective negotiation isn't possible. If there's not trust between a principal and an agent, it's unlikely that the principal will even grant, the full authority to that particular, to an agent. It means that it means also that we gradually, what we might do, it might be that over time, and certainly when we hire a new agent, a new person who's acting on our behalf, it may be a gradually increasing process over which we give more trust and authority as we know that person better and as we build that relationship. So sometimes the relationship between the principal and the agent has to have a kind of a growth trajectory to it, in a sense that's, starting out, you may give the person more limited authority. You as the principal, you as the business owner might give less authority to the agent, a person who is running part of your business, early on. As your relationship with them grows, as your business relationship develops, that degree of trust and authority can gradually increase. So I think that's kind of something really important to keep in mind, because within trust and within principal and agent relationships, there is a possibility for increasing that degree of trust and authority, and that it can grow, and it can change over time. And then if you want to carry this out a little bit further, as when we see changes in organizations where boards of directors, and clearly in any corporation, let's talk about public corporations that sell stock to the public, and where the board of directors represents the shareholders. So they're elected by the shareholders. So the board is elected by the shareholders. The board hires top management, the CEO, presidents, chief operating officers, chief financial officers, and those people at the very top echelon of the company. And you can kind of see how within that top level, how as the board has ability to delegate more or less to the top management. In other words, to a brand new CEO, they may have some somewhat limited authority that over time they will grant more authority and more as that trust authority relationship develops. So anyway, I think that's something that you could I want you to keep in mind. Before you negotiate, some things to consider. There's two big categories of outcomes: the tangibles and the intangibles. Let me get my notes squared away here. And so what we call the tangibles are those things that are things like the quantity that's going to be quantity product that we're talking about that's going to be sold. This is the quantity that we're discussing in the presentation of the sale, of that step, the presentation. We're talking about tangible things. Is it a dozen? Is it one machine? Is it one airplane? Is it two airplanes? Is it, what is the quantity? And things that are very specific. What's the price? Exactly what's the price? And I would use, we're talking about very, very specific, what was often called a landed price. If it's a product or a piece of machinery that sells for $10,000, and that would be at the factory in Pittsburgh, what is the landed price? Like, what is the price of the product plus what it costs to ship it, to get it to Phoenix? Very specifically, we're talking about, that's what we mean by tangible, real specific. Who does what? Who's going to remove the old machine when we replace it with a new machine? Who's going to haul away all the excess material that's torn out of the factory when they have to remodel the factory to put this new machine in? Who's going to do that? Who's responsible for that? Who does what? And then there may be some other installation issues. And so there are any of those specific kinds of things. Other ones are, when will it? What dates are we talking about? Be very specific. If it's a lease product, what is the length of the agreement? 6 months, 6 years? What are we talking about? Again, in very specific terms. And then we can talk about, and these are these things before you negotiate. This is what you think about. You want certain outcomes. Your company wants certain outcomes. But kind of we're talking about it from your perspective now. You're the salesperson. You want certain outcomes, and so you want, on behalf of your company, you want to sell a certain quantity. You want a certain price. You want those tangible things. And what are some of the intangible things? And these are points that are more more about you than it is about the company. It's like, what do you really want to happen? Well, you want to get the deal done. In other words, you want to make the sale. You want to make the customer happy. You want to beat the competition. You want to be fair and be viewed by the industry as being an ethical person to deal with. You want to look good to the rest of your industry. You have a good reputation, and you want to keep that, and you want to maintain that. And you might also, one that I think is kind of interesting is that some people that study outcomes, they talk about you want it to set a precedent. In other words, you want to be this particular kind of sale. You want to set the precedent as being have made the first sale to a company that really was thought to not be interested in your product. The precedent might be another way to set precedent would be to a customer who you made one presentation to and they turned you down flat. And so what you want now, maybe more than anything, you want to do the deal, you want to get the deal done, but you want to set a precedent. You want it now for your reputation to be for you to be known as a person who, you were turned down once, but then you were able to come back and really figure out what went wrong with the first presentation and made a comeback, and you sold it. You eventually sold to the company that turned you down first time around. And sometimes those are some of the best people that I know that work in businesses around Phoenix say that sometimes those are the best and turn out to be some of the best in long-term relationships that they've developed in terms of selling their products. The last topic is one I call increasing your leverage. Sometimes you find yourself in a position, you might be where you are you're a new salesperson, as all of you would be. You're all getting ready some are going to graduate this semester. Those of you who aren't going to graduate this semester, I know you're real close. You're right there, second last semester or your last semester, and so you're going into perhaps, let's say you take a sales job, and you have you're probably not in the position of power that some other people in the industry might have, because the person selling your competing product might be a seasoned veteran of selling, may have sold this company that you're going to be talking to, your prospect, maybe they've sold a lot of product to that company before. So what you need to do is, how do you increase your leverage? Because you have less authority, you're obviously a lot younger than some of the other people. You're just brand new in the industry, so there's nothing wrong with that. But it just needs that maybe there's some leverage that you can get as you start building your career. And so one of them might be before you get into the probably as part of the presentation, I would think that develop better alternatives so you have less of a need to negotiate. So negotiation comes up because there's something about the offer. It can be a good thing. It could be an objection that we talked about in some of the earlier slides that you looked at for today in topics 1 and 2. But you're not quite there. You didn't quite make the sale. So the alternative might be that you have a better alternative or a different alternative. You have a product that to recommend to the customer. Maybe they're a little bit resistant to the price of the one that you've been talking about, and it may even been one that they were really interested in at first. So have some other alternatives. Have a backup where you can say, okay, well, in that case, we can do this. Or if you need a certain amount of product, we can sell. We can ship it to you. You ship it to you monthly instead of quarterly, if you would rather not lay out that much money each month. Have some negotiation points ready to go, rather than saying, in the presentation, here's my product and it's take it or leave it, and here's the price, take that or leave it. Here's the delivery, take that or leave it. That's not what you want, how you want to approach this. You want to have some alternatives and have those thought about in advance. And like I say, as it increases your leverage. You have leverage because you're still sitting with the customer. They're still interested to some degree in you and your company and your product. So what you have is in your sales bag is just some of these alternatives that might just help you make the sale. The second one is find out what matters to the prospective customer. And some of this goes way back to the early point of when you're identifying who are the right prospects, when you're qualifying prospects for your product or service, and you already know that from all the possible, the universe, the total population of possible customers, that not everybody's interested, that not everybody has the money, that not everybody is ready to buy the product. So, find out what matters to the customer. And you remember way back when we talked about the persona, the buyer persona, it goes back to that, having that now, using information about what matters to the prospective customer. And what matters, it might be things like providing good customer service, providing accurate information to their customers. By being able to, your customer might be most interested in using your product to satisfy their customers. Well, that's good information, because you can use that to tell your customer that why you're there is to help them make the right decision, the purchase decision, so that they can then serve their customers. Number 3 is keep the momentum going. Give away small concessions. Don't stand firm quickly. Small things. Keep the discussion going. Keep the discussion alive. Keep giving, give away those small concessions, those small things that might make a difference. And it might not have to do with price, whether or not in your position, in your company, you may not have the authority to do that, but you may be able to make changes or small concessions in delivery, maybe in the warranty, in follow-up. There are probably some small things, and maybe even some larger things. There are some things, some concessions that you can make. So find out what those are and use those to keep the momentum going. You can, if you're, and you'll have to find the right time. If this is the time to use number 4, is to make it clear what they could lose. Make sure that the client knows, that the prospector you're talking to, make sure they know that if they delay on the order, past the middle of next month, let's say, that they may run the risk of not being able to get the product now because it's on back order. It could be that maybe make it clear that maybe there's going to be a price increase. And oftentimes in the business to business arena, we don't run into this in the consumer, in business to consumer, but in business to business, it's widely practiced to tell customers when prices are going to increase. And also, customers would also know that in certain industries, they have price increases at fairly regular times that are announced. Typically, it's kind of like the car business, that new models come out at a certain time of the year. Some industries make their price changes at certain times of the year. So you might be able to tell them, well, okay, so we make it clear that you could lose out if you don't, make the purchase now because prices are due to increase. Number 5, get commitment to decision-making process that favor your desired outcome. Customer might be balking. Here I'm thinking, let's use an example of a business-to-business decision where it's a piece of manufacturing equipment, and the customers, kind of not, kind of going back and forth. They don't know whether they're going to make a decision for this to buy this product from you or not. So, get a commitment to a decision-making process that favors your desired outcome. What would that be? It might be, well, let's go take the customer to a place where one of these machines is running, and allow them to take a look at it and to see for themselves if the process. You might just say, well, let's base the decision on the decision-making process is how well this machine does what it's supposed to do. Okay, and you're basically telling the customer, well, if it does what it's supposed to do, and if I take you to a place, to a factory that's using it, and it works to your satisfaction, then I think you'd be really interested, and I hope you'll buy it. That would be the kind of decision-making process that favors your desired outcome. Something that's very definitely related to an outcome that they're interested in. Number 6, find allies. There might be a time when, again, it might be for high-priced products, complicated products. It might be, going back to from a personal kind of a service, would be back to this thing about investment counselors and advising people on investments for their retirement plans or their savings plans or their banking arrangements. Allies might be people who've had good experience, who are friends. Maybe your friends. Maybe it's mutual friends of you and the customer. So those would be kind of the allies. You might say this to the client, to the customer. I've talked to your friend. I've talked to a person. You give them their name, and they would be happy to talk to you if you want to give them a call. Now that can be. You can run into this situation of that we talked about at the end of topic 2. That it might be, when one person's recommendation may not be enough, and sometimes this ally recommendation might work, it might not. But I think a really good ally would be if you knew a person who, if you and the customer had a mutual friend, that'd be a strong ally who may be able to speak. And if that mutual friend has used your product or service and can speak for it. That's a kind of a good use of allies. There may be somebody in the company who could also speak favorably about your product or service, and they could be an ally. Number 7, I like that one because we all have things when we're in the sales business. We have issues that we know more about, or we can speak more passionately about. We can really get excited about certain topics, and if there is one, and you have one, you probably will. There'll probably some issues that you're kind of hard to get passionate about in speaking to a customer. But the negotiation or some things that maybe issues that you feel strongly about, and can actually and maybe get some storytelling here, some storytelling that might add to the increasing your leverage. So what you're doing here, remember these 8 steps here are things that are points that are trying to give you a little boost, a little heads up, because maybe you're the youngest salesperson in the industry. Maybe you're just getting started, and so this will give you some initial startup credibility and a lot of leverage to possibly close the sale. The last one is, as we talk about, listen, be a good listener, keep learning about your product, keep learning about your customers' needs, keep learning how your product meets those needs, and most importantly, stay alert. That's kind of part of listening. Stay alert. Don't let too many things go unnoticed, because everything you hear when you're talking to the customer is could very well be valuable information. So anyway, class, again, we'll end that topic there. And I will get all these slide packages will be posted very, very quickly. They'll all be posted tonight. And this is Wednesday about, I don't know, late in the afternoon. They'll be posted around 6 o'clock or so Wednesday evening. So thanks again.